Hello everyone, and thank you for joining this webinar looking at Q Global and Telepractice from Pearson Clinical Assessment. My name is Richard Nash. I'm the Customer Success Manager for the clinical team, and I'm joined today by my colleague Menashe Mashonga-Mende, the Customer Success Consultant. Thank you for joining. This is a pre-recorded webinar, so there's no opportunity to ask questions today. However, hopefully we will be able to go through some of the main considerations and concerns about the Q Global platform, and we will be providing our contact details at the end of the webinar too. Just a brief introduction as to what we're going to cover today. Menashe will be going through the Q Global platform, demonstrating that live on screen, and after which we'll go into some more detailed information on Telepractice that we've put together over the last few months or so. And as I say, there'll be contact details at the end and some links to some further articles that may be of interest to you too. So just before Menashe goes into a deep dive into the platform, I just wanted to give a brief outline of the Q Global platform for those of you that may not have used it before or are unfamiliar with the platform. So what is Q Global? So Q Global is a web-based platform that we in Pearson launched in 2012. Originally, it was used to administer on-screen type assessments that didn't require that interaction between clinician and client, such as the MMPI-2 or the MCMI-4. Really those questionnaire type assessments that bring up multiple choice question and answers. More recently, it's been updated with new test content in terms of stimulus books and test manuals to allow certain assessments to be used in a telepractice format. Telepractice, very briefly, we're referring to during the course of this webinar as those assessments where you can share your screen with your client via a platform such as Zoom or Microsoft Teams and use it in a remote setting in conjunction with paper record forms to still be able to administer assessments, even though you might not be able to see them in a face-to-face setting. So as we'll show you in the next few slides and in the demonstration, there's lots of information about Telepractice and also the platform. Menashe will demonstrate how you can actually use the assessments in that format too. So just to sum up before we go into the demonstration, you can use the platform in those two ways, either to administer assessments on screen, questionnaire type assessments, or more recently the Telepractice via Zoom, Microsoft Teams format. Q Global is a 24/7 accessible web platform. So wherever you are, you can access your data. So you're not reliant on having brought assessment materials home with you, for example. You can log in on your home computer to access all of your test data and generate reports on that data, no matter where you are. As I've touched on, there are on-screen and remote on-screen options available, and Menashe will go through those shortly. And as mentioned, you can access manuals online via the resource library section of the platform, no matter where you are. So again, compared to your paper equivalent, maybe where you potentially someone else might have borrowed it or you've left it in the office, the advantage of digital and Q Global is that you can access those resources that you have purchased from us wherever you are on whichever device you're on, including tablets too. Okay, so now I'm going to hand over to Menashe, who's going to lead us through a demonstration of the Q Global platform. So Menashe, over to you.
Brilliant, thank you, Richard. And thank you all for your interest in this webinar. We will be running through a demonstration of Q Global on screen. Okay, so on screen, you should be able to see the Q Global platform. As Richard touched on in the introduction, it is a web-based system accessed via password and username. This web address URL at the top of the screen, qglobal.pearsonclinical.com. When you first log in, you'll be greeted with a Getting Started message that highlights some of the key features that I'm going to run through with you today. anyway. Firstly, would be the scoring and reporting tool. So Q Global, as Richard again touched on in the introduction, is a scoring and reporting tool for a whole host of paper-administered tests. These could be questionnaire type tests or other tests that involve the practitioner sharing stimulus, maintaining control over the administration. Q Global is a system that would then allow a practitioner to embed raw data into it so that scoring and reporting can be completed and those reports extract from the platform in a useful template format. The first thing you land on when you log in is that exact feature, the report writer, and I'll just demonstrate how that works on screen now. The journey is always the same. You'll begin the process by creating the examinee's profile by selecting New Examinee, embed their information into the system. How you choose to enter this information is entirely up to you. For scoring and reporting purposes, the date of birth and the gender will need to be 100% accurate. Press save once you've entered the required, and your candidates will start to populate a list just like this one on screen, the most recently created candidate sitting at the top. Once they're in the system, you will then start to assign assessments against their profile. Using the tick box and pressing assign new assessment is one way of doing this. And heading over to the assessment that you've administered or are yet to administer to assign it. So in this demonstration, I'll be demonstrating manual entry. So the RAT5 would ultimately still need to be administered with a paper record form, and the raw data on that record form would then be entered manually into the Q Global system so that a report can be generated. And that's what the delivery method manual entry relates to. So in the assessment details screen, you'll have another opportunity to confirm the examinee's information. Further down under assessment details, you'll need to select the appropriate options from the various drop-down menus. Select yourself as the examiner from the list, and the RAT5 itself requires a testing site. If there isn't a site already in the system, simply use the green icon to add one in. Once you've entered the testing site, further down, there'll be some additional tabs at the bottom. Demographics, again, this is a tab that will probably exist for the majority of the assessments that allow manual entry. And then, of course, the all-important raw scores as well. Once you're happy with the raw score entry from your record form into the system, you'll press Save and Close. And the Generate Report icon will then make itself visible at the very top of the screen. Selecting that will allow you to proceed to the next stage. And this is the penultimate screen before generating your report. There's a useful format changer on the top right-hand corner, bounce between Adobe PDF and Microsoft Word doc types. Further down, there'll be various options to include and omit pieces of information for your report and various settings with the confidence level on the right-hand side. This will vary greatly, of course, depending on the assessment that's being scored and reported on. Ultimately, when you're happy with your selection, finalize by pressing Generate Report. The report extracts itself almost instantly, and that is then a file saved on your downloads that you can then move to any other folder on your machine, and ultimately it is now your file. The data will remain in Q Global until you choose to delete it, and you can generate the same report multiple times if necessary. So very quickly, just going back to the home screen, I will demonstrate the digital administration tool for the questionnaire type tests. As Richard touched on in the introduction, not only is it a scoring and reporting tool for manually entered test data, it is also a tool that will allow you to digitally administer assessments in the questionnaire format. Again, the process is the same. You'll either create the new examinee, or if they are already in the system, use the profile that exists there and assign the assessment. In this demonstration, I'll use the sensory profile. Head over to the section, select the assessment, assign. The window will take you to the assessment details screen. Any messages relating to the system or fields that need to be addressed will pop up at the top of the screen, just as these two have here. And so do make sure to follow the instruction there. And then further down, because this is a questionnaire type test, there are a few more delivery methods in addition to manual entry. So if you've completed the paper questionnaire, you would still use manual entry and embed the item data into the system. But if you want to administer this form on screen, then you'll be using one of the other two delivery methods. The first of which is on-screen administration. This assumes that the recipient or the candidate who's going to be completing your questionnaire is with you and is going to complete that questionnaire on your computer or tablet device. Selecting that option and then hitting Start Assessment will bring up the form on screen, logging out of this particular session and just making the form visible so that the recipient or candidate can work through the items. Remote on-screen administration will allow you to send the questionnaire over to the recipient or the candidate in an email. And this is a Q Global generated email that will go out with a simple click here link so that the recipient or the candidate can complete that questionnaire in their own time. Upon completion, the practitioner will always receive an email notifying them that it's been complete and directing them to log back into Q Global so that they can then generate the report. The options on screen essentially guide you through the process for sending out that email link to the questionnaire. In this section here, you'll embed either the examinee's information or the rater, in the case of this particular form, the teacher recipient of it. Once you're happy with the information that's been entered and the appropriate option has been selected, you can then press Preview and Send Invitation. The practitioner's email address will always need to populate this box here so that the notification gets received once the recipient has completed the form. Okay, Preview and Send Invitation will open up the template. The template is a smart template. It will draw the information in the brackets from what you've already entered into the system. This particular bracketed piece here is the test link itself. So it's really important that you don't make any amendments to that there. You're able to customize this template otherwise, the information outside of the brackets, and you can also save that then to use later on with either yourself or colleagues. Double check the recipient's information in the top right-hand corner. Ensure that the Copy Me feature is selected so that Q Global CCs you into the email that's sent out to the recipient. And then you'll send that off by hitting Send Invitation. A confirmation message will appear at the top of the screen there. And at this stage, the email has gone out, the recipient has received it, and they will then complete the questionnaire in their own time. Once you've been notified that the questionnaire has been complete, you'll log back into Q Global and you'll land on your examinee list again. From that list, you've got a number of different options. You can either head over to the named candidate and click on the row that their name occupies. This will take you into a useful screen that displays a detailed assessment profile. I will come back to here. An alternative method of finding the candidate who you've just received the email notification for is by using the search feature on the right-hand side here. Very useful if you're starting to develop a rather large examinee list on the system. In any case, once you're on the examinee details screen of the person who's completed that form, you will then generate the report in the same way that the manually entered test was reported. So you'll use the tick box and then you'll use a generate report icon. Important to take note of the statuses when it comes to the digitally administered questionnaires. That status would need to say ready for reporting before you're able to generate the report. But otherwise, the process from there on is exactly the same. You'll land on a configuration screen, you'll choose your options for the output, and the system will extract the report into your downloads. Okay, so we've demonstrated manual entry, remote on-screen, and touched on on-screen administration. Did want to touch on the third feature of Q Global mentioned by Richard in the introduction, and that's Q Global as a host for a load of components that will help facilitate telepractice administration of assessments. So those components are things like manuals, stimulus books, and card sets for the various tests that we've made available on the platform. Those resources are held in a section of the platform at the very top of the screen called the Resource Library. Once you're in the Resource Library, you'll see a full list of the offering on the platform. There are various folders in this sort of library that will display bits and pieces of information about that assessment and sample reports and things like that. Really just information for prospective users. If you start to break down the folders, as I have done here for the CEL5, you'll see the general and the restricted. So the general contains that free resource, essentially. So all of the things in here you can view on screen and save and print off to keep. The things that you're paying for, the manuals and the stimulus books and the card sets and those types of resources will always be located in the restricted folder. Once you've purchased something for your Q Global account and it's been made accessible on here, this is where you'll go to open it all. And I'll demonstrate what this resource looks like. Conscious that this is a pre-recorded webinar that we will be putting on our website, I won't go through any of the test items themselves, but just to give you a look and feel of the document, it's a bit like a PDF and a PowerPoint presentation combined. This one here is actually a combination of the two stimulus books in the CEL5. You've got built-in features to help you navigate. This includes arrows here. Turning the pages with those arrows, you'll get to the contents page, and the contents are hyperlinked. Going forward of this introduction card to sentence comprehension will take you to the items. So everything is hyperlinked. Age-appropriate start points are hyperlinked in this particular stimulus book as well, so that the clinician can jump straight to the starting item. Using the house will take you back to the contents, and the recommended view ultimately for engaging in telepractice is full screen presentation mode. So in conjunction with your teleconferencing tool, you'll share the stimulus book, and then you'll switch to presentation mode so that you can cycle through the items, hopefully allowing you to administer the majority of the subtests. Okay, so they are complete copies of their paper counterparts, and ultimately we're hoping that you'll be able to use these to continue testing. The manuals themselves are fairly similar, except that they will contain less interactive page turning features, but ultimately they are copies of the document that's in the paper kit. You've got examiner's manuals and scoring manuals. Various different types of manuals are accessible in the resource library. Okay, the last section of the demonstration of the platform is going to focus in and around the account features. So Q Global is designed to facilitate access for multiple users. Larger teams with many clinicians can all access the same account, sharing the resources that have been purchased amongst them. You'll share stimulus books and manuals with colleagues, and you'll share scoring subscriptions as well. To do all of that, the main account owner or one of the account administrators will go to the Manage Account feature at the very top of the screen. You'll select your account name, which will be highlighted in green. And you'll see this screen here. You've got an Inventory tab and a Users tab. Firstly, in the Users tab, account administrators and account owners are able to give access to their colleagues by heading in here, selecting New User, embedding the colleague's information, and pressing Save. That colleague will then receive a welcome email, allowing them to set their own username and password and set their own two-factor authentication. Once everybody has access, you can start to share the resources using the Inventory tab here. The Inventory tab is split into two sections: Asset Inventory and Subscription Inventory. There is a third section further down, Usage Inventory, but this one you're not needing to manage. The manageable inventory are these two sections here. Asset Inventory essentially controls all the resources that you view in the resource library. The Subscription Inventory controls the scoring and reporting aspect of Q Global. Use the Manage icons on the right-hand side, and this will take you to a screen with a full list of the users on your account and 3 columns. Purchased quantity of stimulus books or manuals, depending on which one was selected. You can use this drop-down list to view the various different available manuals and stimulus books. Current allocated quantity, and that would mean how many are currently in use on that account, and the available quantity, how many are free and are able to be used by a colleague who needs one. Further down, the last column in the list next to the users here will indicate who currently has a particular resource allocated to their profile. Account administrators and account owners can use this feature to deallocate a particular resource from a user and reallocate it to another user. ultimately, if you have enough of a particular resource to ensure that everybody has access, then there won't be any need to come in here and divvy the resource out. In any case, this is certainly a feature that we encourage users manage internally, and we're hoping that it's pretty straightforward and will allow you to share stimulus books, manuals, and card sets so that you can use them in your practice. Going back to the previous screen and just displaying what that looks like for subscriptions, it's exactly the same. The subscriptions, of course, are annual and need to be renewed to continue using them. And so when you allocate a subscription to a user for the very first time, you'll end up setting the start date and it'll also therefore set the end date. You'll always be made aware of how many days remaining on a subscription your account has by the indicator on the right-hand side here. Similarly, you've got an ordered quantity, an allocated quantity, and a ready to allocate quantity. And using that in conjunction with the list at the bottom will inform users who currently has access to a scoring subscription. It's worth noting that one of these is necessary to complete reports for manually entered test data. So you will need to ensure that this is allocated to your user profile before you generate a report. You're able to enter data and save that data for later. This controls the generating of the report itself, not the manually entering of that data. Going back one more screen, you'll have the usage inventory. The usage inventory controls generating reports for digitally administered questionnaires. So those questionnaire type tests that you have opted for a delivery method of on-screen administration or remote on-screen administration will require usages or report credits. These are advertised on our website and can be purchased in bulk. And ultimately, they will sit in a pot and all the users will share the pot of credits amongst them. And every time somebody generates a report for an assessment administered with either of those two administration methods, the pot will decrease. Okay, this is probably about the limit of what we can show as far as Q Global is concerned on this webinar. There are a whole host of features. We're always available to talk users through the various features of the platform. So do get in touch if you would like another demonstration of its capability. But for now, I'm going to hand you back to Richard, who's going to go over the various bits and pieces of information that we have of Telepractice on our main website to help support users throughout the adoption of the method.
Thanks very much, Menashe, for that detailed overview there. As Menashe says, now I'm going to flip back to looking at some information on our website, which I'm just going to share my screen for now. Before we go into the dedicated Telepractice section, I just wanted to highlight where to go to find information on Q Global specifically, products available and where to go to get additional information and support. First of all, for Q Global, we have a dedicated mini site on our website, which you can find at pearsonclinical.co.uk/Q Global. From here, first of all, this is where you would go to sign up to the platform, and you would just click on the link here, sign up now, and it will take you through some steps to request an account. A Q Global account itself is completely free, and provided you are a registered user with Pearson Clinical Assessment, you will be able to access an account on submission of this form. Once we set you up, you'll receive the welcome email that Menashe referenced in the email, and then be able to set up additional users on your own account. Just to look at some of the content and the assessments that are available on the platform, the best place to go for that is actually the pricing tab on our website. Now here you can see a product matrix of all of the available assessments for Q Global. If I just bring that up now, You can see here it lists by product the type of delivery option that you can choose for each different assessment. So just taking the top one there, the Beck Anxiety Inventory, BAI, as an example, you can see here that all three delivery options are available, and the manual entry, the on-screen administration, and the remote on-screen administration. They're all shown there as pay per report, which means that for any of those options, you can buy a credit, and you'll be able to generate a report on your data. Moving along here, you can also see the BAI manual is available as a digital Q Global asset as well. And then finally, on the far right-hand side here, you can see the Pearson UK qualification level that you must obtain before you can purchase this item, and also the type of output for the report as well. So as you can see, some of these have Word as the option. The majority have PDF, and some have both options available. If I just use another example further down with the WISC-5, again, you can see here that this one only has manual entry available. And that means that you must administer the assessment either in paper format, face-to-face, or remotely via Telepractice, enter the data into the platform, and then you can generate your report using either a credit or an annual subscription. And those are the digital assets on the right-hand side there that are available for the WISC-5, as I'm circling on screen now. To actually purchase those resources, you would click on the name of the product from the matrix, and it will take you to the product page for the selected product. From here, you would scroll down to the price list and buy now section, and you will see a Q Global web-based administration scoring and reporting drop-down menu. Once you expand that, you will see all of the available assets for the kit. So again, using this example, the WISC-5, there's a complete digital kit for those of you that may want everything, including the required paper and pencil components. Or you can just purchase the individual assets on a one-off basis. So here you can see you could purchase Stimulus Book 1 for £177, for example. As Menashe noted in his presentation, the assets are shareable and purchasable by individuals. So that means that, as you do with the paper equivalents, if you purchase one copy of Stimulus Book 2, for example, you would be able to share that between colleagues on the account. But it's important to note that you need to purchase enough resource to manage concurrent usage. So if you've got two members in a team and both people needed Stimulus Book 2 at any one time, you would need 2 copies of that resource to facilitate that. If one person only needed the resource at any one time, then obviously you'd be fine to purchase just 1 copy of the resource. So it's exactly the same as it is in paper. When you've got your paper manuals, only one person can have access to the manual at a time, and so it follows with the digital access as well. So that's just a kind of quick overview, if you like, of how to navigate through to that matrix and how to find the price list and buy now. And as I said, that would be available from pearsonclinical.co.uk/QGlobal, as it says at the top there. So I would encourage everyone that's interested in Q Global to look at the pricing tab and that matrix, because it really does give a good overview of all of the assessment content and also the assets and credits and subscriptions that are available for each product as well. Just going back a step, again on the pricing tab, we have tiered pricing discounts available for you. And that's where, for the scoring subscriptions and reports, you can obtain a discount if you're purchasing in bulk. As you can see here on the left-hand side, again using the BAI reports as an example, the standard price there is listed in the 1 to 4 category. And then moving forward, you can see if you purchase 5 to 49, the price reduces. up to a quantity of 250 plus, and the price goes down again. So you can see there on the right hand side, that's the highest level of discount available. There are selected reports available also for those assessments that require the interaction between the clinician and child, those assessments that you might do in the telepractice format, such as the CAL5. And again, tiered discounts are available using the columns above, and the price below gives you the different options available. I won't go through all of these now. As you can see, they're all available on screen, but it's just useful to know that that matrix is there, and you can take advantage of discount by purchasing in bulk. Okay, so now I'm going to look at the telepractice considerations of our assessments. So telepractice is a term that's been around, been used for many years actually, but it's become more and more prevalent given the circumstances that we all find ourselves in, with social distancing and restrictions on movement in and out of hospitals and educational settings. On our website, first of all, we've linked out to our section on telepractice. And telepractice we define as where you're conducting these assessments that you would normally do in a face-to-face setting, but you're doing that with remote teleconferencing platforms such as Zoom or such as Microsoft Teams that I referenced earlier. Now we appreciate that that method of delivery will be new to many of our customers, and in fact it was very new to us 12 months or so ago when the pandemic first hit. However, we've collated during the course of the last 9-10 months or so a collection of resources to enable you as practitioners to kind of learn about telepractice and also make the transition to telehealth, telepractice as smooth as possible. So on this telepractice section of our website, on the overview tab, first of all, we have a link to certain documents that will give you a good grounding, first of all, in telehealth, and give you that support and reassurance that you need to be able to conduct the assessments in this way. The first link here is a letter to our certificate or letter of no objection, which allows you to conduct the assessments in this method, first of all, overriding some of the copyright features that we would have instigated prior to the pandemic, where you weren't allowed to share material digitally. So this letter is something that gives you the permission to use our assessments in the telehealth way, and we would encourage you to put this letter alongside any assessment record that you use telepractice for, the telepractice delivery method for, and conduct in that fashion. Just having the letter alongside it gives you that reassurance that it's been conducted in a fair and valid way. The second link here is a link to download our free guides on telepractice. That will take you to a page where you can just pop your email address in, and you'll get sent via email very quickly a link to those guides. We've created guides for all of our key customer bases, psychologists, speech therapists, occupational therapists, and Senkos. And those guides are for you, just to give you that, again, understanding and deeper guidance, if you like, on telepractice in this format. We've also produced some guides as to how to set up the technology. And again, these are produced in conjunction with practitioners both in the UK and the US, and they're kind of more infographic type guidance documents, which give you kind of a guidance on the setup considerations for both yourselves as examiners and also the examinee as well, the kind of environment that they would be sitting in, the kind of environment that you would be sitting as a practitioner, and also the kind of equipment that's involved. And again, I'm not going to go through all of these on this webinar in too much detail because of time considerations, but it's just to flag that these do exist. They are there on our website, so please do take advantage of those. We do realize again that you would be thinking about telepractice, the validity and the various norm considerations around our assessments to be used that are used in this way. We put together this guide which gives some in some detail different considerations and comparisons with face-to-face assessment and how that matches up. Again, I'm not going to go through the whole document, but you can see it's there. It's quite lengthy, and it's there for you to take advantage of. And again, please do reference that from the overview section of the Telepractice site on our website. And there are also some short guides there on Q Global that Menashe's touched on in more detail, but they're there for quick reference on that page too. We've also linked out to some professional guidelines and documents that I'm sure many of you will already be familiar with. But those institutions such as the BPS, the RCSRT and RCOT also put out telepractice guidance. And we would always encourage you to view those documents before conducting assessments in this way to make sure you're complying with the latest regulations and guidance from your professional body. And also to note that when you do conduct assessments in this fashion, that should also be noted in your test protocol reports that it was delivered and conducted in this way. We've also collated product-specific information on telepractice, and this really does I would really recommend that anyone considering using any of our assessments in a telepractice format comes to this tab and really has a look at these guidance documents, because they are very detailed and give answers to all of the most frequently asked questions that we have around telepractice on some of our most popular products. Again, they're all clickable links. So for example, if you were looking for considerations on how to deliver the CEL5 via telepractice, you would click on that link and it would take you to this page, which gives you an overview of different considerations and goes through all of the various options for telepractice in some detail, right through from audiovisual equipment, factors for examinee and examiner, the test materials that you would need, and any other miscellaneous documentation and information that may be relevant to that specific assessment. So please do remember this page exists, and there's really useful guidance and documentation to aid your assessment sessions and help them become more streamlined as time goes on. And as you can see, we also have the similar guidance for those questionnaire type assessments where there's not normally that same level of interaction as there is with the assessments above, but it's still relevant to kind of give you that reassurance of delivery for those kind of model of assessment too. Finally, don't hesitate to book a slot with our assessment consultants. We've got short 15-minute sessions available where you can ask any questions of our team. We know that telepractice is still unfamiliar for many of you, and please do take advantage of the knowledge and resource that we have at Pearson to make sure that you have all the information that you need to be able to deliver assessment sessions successfully. Okay, so that's everything that I wanted to touch on in the telepractice session. The final thing just to mention is that we are available as well, Menashe and myself, to answer any questions specific to telepractice or Q Global. I'm just going to share our contact details on screen so you've got those available, and please do feel free to contact us at any point if you are trying to work out Telepractice, if you have any questions that we haven't covered on the webinar today, on Q Global, for example, do drop us an email, and we're more than happy to help. We're also happy to run sessions on training your wider team as well, should you choose to assess in this manner. And we can do that remotely via Zoom or Microsoft Teams too. And we've done that for many trusts over the last 5-6 months. And I think once trusts see the platforms in action and get that understanding, they have managed to conduct many assessment sessions successfully during the last few months, where the normal day-to-day practice has been somewhat restricted. Finally, I'd say thank you to Menashe, and thank you for watching this webinar. I do hope you found it useful. I've put some links in the slides to both the Q Global site, where you can find the product matrix, and also to the Telepractice pages that I've just gone through on screen, just for quick reference. So when you do watch this webinar back, they will be available on the page that you click through from too. So finally, all it remains for me to say is thank you for watching again. I do hope you stay safe and well over the course of the next few months, and do reach out to us if you do have any questions in the meantime. Thanks very much for watching, everybody, and goodbye.